Earlier I discussed the importance of all the compartments in your writer's toolbox, especially how you shouldn't neglect one at the expense of the others. The example I gave was focusing on character to the detriment of plot, but in this lesson I'm going to be talking an awful lot about characters. And the reason for this is simple. As much as you shouldn't focus on only one or the other, this chapter will show you that you really can't disentangle plot from character. They're hopelessly intertwined. Much of what you'll remember about your favorite characters has to do with the ways they acted within the story world, the things they did, the ways they responded to happenings and got out of tricky situations. Here, we're going to explore the other half of how the story changes states. Not the story imposing on the characters, but the characters acting to change the state of the story world. Goals. A character with a goal won't change the story world without acting, but goals do help to explain a lot of the ways characters change the state of the story world. So it's worth mentioning a few quick things about goals. A simple way to think about a character's goal is as her desire to change something about the story world. When we discuss actions shortly, we'll see that a goal doesn't need to be the driving force in a story. It can be almost insignificant. Sometimes, though, a character's goal is the main plot element in a story. You may have heard a character's goal in a goal-driven story referred to as the MacGuffin, which I think was a bit of a derisive joke that became so ubiquitous that the term is stuck, and the original meaning has faded away behind it. Essentially, the MacGuffin is the major something a character is after, assuming they know what they're after. Poor lost Dorothy just wanting to go home, the one ring in the tricksy hobbitses who stole it from us, precious, or that dreamy senior Jake Ryan. Plans. A good way to set about achieving a goal is to have a plan. In a narrative sense, plans are a calculated set of events undertaken by a character to change the current state of the story world into a goal-fulfilled state. For example, in order to have a donut, Homer must walk across the room to where the donuts are. Aw, but that's so far! And that's all a character needs in order to have a plan, a desire that prompts them to act in a specific way. Admittedly, a reader probably doesn't care that much about whether Homer gets his donut or not, even if Homer cares a lot. Plans must involve risk in order for a story to be suspenseful. A plan to get milk at the grocery store is inherently mundane and uninteresting. Unless, of course, there are zombies along the way. Then a character better have a bulletproof plan. Risk in a story comes from both luck, or lack thereof, as in when poor Rebecca's armored war wagon got a flat tire in the middle of a crowd of zombies on the way to get milk for her Captain Crunch. Or risk can come from the actions of other characters, like the slightly crazy-looking but friendly guy with the bazooka who comes along to seemingly save Rebecca's day. I'm not so sure I would fully trust him if I were her. Actions. Goals and plans don't change the state of the story world of themselves. A character needs to take action in order to do that. Actions can be as mundane as a character getting up to get a donut, or as dangerous as going out in a zombie apocalypse to get milk for some Captain Crunch. An action is something that is deliberately initiated by the character, and we can almost always at least infer that there's a goal plus plan motivating the action. For example, when Larry goes to the water fountain to drink, it's probably safe to assume that Larry didn't like being thirsty, had the desire to change the state in which he was thirsty, formed a plan to get a drink of water to quench that thirst, and go figure, off to the water fountain went Larry. Moves. A move, in a narrative sense, is an action that involves both a high-priority goal and a high risk of failure. If you find yourself reading a story and thinking, I don't think trying to escape that Soviet gulag is going to work out so well for Dmitri, but I'm really pulling for him, it's probably safe to call that a move. The great thing about moves is that they generate a tremendous amount of suspense in a reader when they simulate the scenario. Moves will help keep your reader engaged and turning the pages. In the last two lessons, we've been directly discussing the main ways it's possible for a story world to change from one state to another. We've also indirectly been discussing the next important aspect of plot, perhaps the most important aspect of all. A changing state is about a dynamic world, and a lot of theorists have proposed that this alone is the key to plot. Causality, they say. One thing happens which causes another thing to happen, and so on, until the story has played itself out. Picture this, though. Rowe reads a narrative theory book that says exactly that. Plot is all about causality. And that's what makes a story. Rowe, ever the smartass, thinks, well, I'll just give the audience what they want then. A pure, unadulterated dose of causality they won't be able to look away from, riddled with one action verb after another. What a mental simulation. There's no way a reader will be able to put my book down. Rowe then sits down to write the following story. Domino A knocks over domino B, which in turn knocks over domino C, and that domino hits domino D, toppling into domino E, and by this point, if you haven't skipped over the part of this sentence with dominoes C, D, and E, you are already plotting your escape. A story needs to be dynamic for it to be a story, yes, but it must be dynamic in a manner that is interesting. And X causes Y causes Z isn't interesting unless X is a gunfight, Y is the retaliation, and Z is the reckoning that settles the matter once and for all. We'll talk interesting next.